Hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. At Gamescom 2015, I had the super rare chance to interview Jason Blundell, who is the game director for Zombies at Treyarch. The interview was completely spontaneous, it wasn't planned at all, and I want to give you guys a heads up that midway through, the camera died, and so luckily a bit of foresight came in handy, and I actually had a backup recording going, and so what I've done to make this watchable for you guys is I've put the text from that segment on the screen. So, got this, man.
You got the book?
This is the holy book, so I guess we'll just go from here. So, hi guys, MrRoflWaffles here. We're at Gamescom right now, which is at Gamescom there is being showcased loads of Black Ops 3 multiplayer, there's some campaign stuff going on, there are some teasings of zombies just with your presence.
Just like a
sprinkling.
Yeah, sprinkling.
Just to keep things, keep everyone nice and on their toes. And we're joined here today with Jason Blundell, who is it Blundell or Blundell?
All depends from which part of England you're from.
Right,
I say Blundell.
Oh, you do?
But when I'm on the phone I have to say Blundell.
Okay, so it's Jason Blundell here. We've also got MrDalekJD, John, myself, MrRoflWaffles, Milo, and we're going to be talking a bit about Black Ops 3 Zombies-ish, because obviously we can't talk about Black Ops 3 Zombies in the sense that we can't just say, okay, well, what's the map going to be, and what are all the features, and where are all the perks, and what's that Widow's Wine, and all that stuff.
Hey. Early in the video already.
Getting right to the topic at hand. So we've got to sort of skirt around those points somewhat, but I think we'll start things off by just saying, what so far have you been doing at Gamescom? Like, what has been your presence here for?
So obviously Comic-Con we did the announce for Zombies and did all that talking. So Gamescom for me is talking about the campaign, which is a co-op campaign. So this is the first time we've had a co-op campaign, so a 4-player co-op campaign since World at War when we first kind of did it. And there's kind of two ways to make a co-op game, right? You can make a single-player game and just put 4 players in it, or you can build it from the ground up as a 4-player game, and that's what we've done for Black Ops 3 campaign, which means that everything's been considered with co-op in mind. The spatial design, the size, the way we make our maps, the amount of personalization in terms of you can customize yourself. You can play as a male or as a female for the first time, all the way through the campaign. You can change the way you look, the outfits that you wear, the equipment, the same way of kind of personalization of gunsmith stuff from MP, that's all in campaign as well. So you can unlock items and make your different weapons and then put the different skins on and paint smiley faces on and do all that kind of good stuff. And and then you have a thing called the safe house as well. You have this space that you kind of visit between maps, because in previous campaigns you were kind of jumping around the world, going to different places. In this one it kind of takes place in like a week and a half, so you come back to the safe house between missions. And then in there you have your own bunk, and in the bunk you have your own computer.
Right,
so there's a computer in there, and we go into 2065, so in Black Ops 1 we had the terminal, right, which was this kind of old school computer, and we put all the hidden stuff inside. And then in 2065 we have like this high-tech kind of glass screen computer. And in there is a wiki with hundreds of articles of text that kind of takes you all the way from the early kind of timeline all the way up to 2065. So you can see our workings, because when I was at school, my maths teacher used to say, show your workings, right? We've shown all our workings. So it's all in there. You can see why we've made decisions and other things, and maybe an Easter egg or two might be around there.
Hey.
Sounds very, very nice.
So there are 2 points that you've mentioned there that I want to pick up on.
Sure.
First of which is the terminal, right?
Yeah.
So this is being included in the mode, or in the campaign. Is there going to be stuff in there that might bleed into the other modes?
It's an interesting idea, though.
I think that it might be an interesting idea. And also, to continue on, the Black Ops 1 terminal, you have your different servers, right? And so I think that it would be cool if a similar thing happened with Black Ops 3, and you potentially had your Dreamland server and you had your other things. I think, is that something that you think would be cool to include?
I mean, I've got great ideas. I might have to take some of these. The thing I would say is that so all the stuff from Black Ops 1, all the information in the Black Ops 1 terminal is in a couple of pages actually inside
That's
the new
really
one,
good.
right? So any guys
cool.
who missed out on the terminal the first time round, you can access those files and see all that stuff.
That's awesome, because
in Black Ops 3.
Even I had to go back to the Black Ops 1 terminal a couple of weeks ago to get access to
Actually, it was the video I made about Lower Silesia being mentioned in the Shadows of Evil trailer, which links it into Deriz, which links it into the rest of the story, which etc. etc. And in that that document, there's so much information that is great to sort of read back over and things like that.
Sure.
But it's a bit of work getting there.
Oh yeah.
And knowing all the you need to know all the commands to get to the individual documents. And is there anything being done to try and make it a bit more sort of open to people that might not necessarily dabble there otherwise?
Yeah. So when we were doing Black Ops 1, it was it was a very old machine. It was like typing click as you went. So the modern version in 2065 is HTML format. So it's a little bit easier. So you've got
just a bit. Yeah.
To give you an idea, so all those files are in there, and that takes up a small fraction of the number of pages we have. So if I could draw you a picture of the original files in the terminal for Black Ops 1, it's about this big.
Okay.
And then I put all the files that are now added with Black Ops 3, it's like that.
Okay.
Our poor legal department had to go through all these pages and read through all this great stuff.
Yeah.
But you can navigate it, you can literally surf it. If there's a link and it says, I don't know, Nova 6. You could click on that and it would take you then and talk about that stuff, and you could go off and go in other places.
Funny you should mention Nova 6.
I know, it's just a word, isn't it?
I mean, the game comes out on Nov 6.
Hey,
that's an interesting link. Yeah, November 6th. It's a Friday this year.
Yeah.
Normally it's a Tuesday. Sudden change for some peculiar reason.
We can't warp time and space, unfortunately.
You can with Treyarch time.
We do have Treyarch time.
Yep.
The Treyarch time distortion field. Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. So, I mean, with things like these sort of general themes that we've had with Black Ops 1, for example, you've got the whole stuff with Reznov, and he's there, but he's sort of not there, and there's this whole mind game that plays out. And you were mentioning yesterday to me that was not 100% concrete necessarily.
Sure.
Do you want to relay that story? I thought it was really interesting stuff.
When you're making a game, this applies to any game. When you're making a game, you're making certain creative decisions, certain choices about a story, especially storytelling. And as you're kind of going along, you're trying your best to you're shaping the kind of levels, you're shaping the narrative and the story, and you're making certain creative decisions as you go. And the idea of the mind control was always there, but Reznov's being real or not real and all that kind of good stuff was still very much up in the air all the way to the very end. And we had it all laid out, and it was like do we want to go down that path? Is that the right path to go down? Do we think we're going to kind of lose people with that kind of technique? And so
lost Reznov.
He
disappeared.
He came to the very end, and we were like, no, we're committing to that. We're doing that. And you can remember, it's weird to think about it now, but back at that time, that was like a crazy thought. Like the idea of a character that was going to be in your mind in that kind of Manchurian Candidate style. In Call of Duty was like bonkers, right? But in the same way that the idea of me saying Call of Duty Zombies was crazy back at the time. And Mark's talked about that on previous presentations about just the suggestion of it had to be eased into the organisation, because we had this very serious historical military shooter. And then, especially on World at War, and then, we put zombies at the end. And it was because it was so popular, because the people inside the company were giving up their lunch breaks and playing it all the time, and then emails were going around the office about, I got to this level, I got to level 13. Was why it got introduced and got added, and has been continuously supported.
So, speaking of Mark Lamia, he did a really good talk at DICE.
Yes, he did, yeah.
And that's something that has been scrutinised massively by myself and by John and by the entire community, just a lot, I tell you. And there are some really interesting things in there that I'd like to mention to you, one of which is... Okay, so let me phrase it this way. One of those screens contains a 935 logo in the top right. Okay? That is a 935 logo that I then spent a couple of hours looking for, because it's not the logo that we're used to.
Okay.
And it's on someone's DeviantArt from many a year ago.
Okay.
And I was a little perplexed by this. Is there anything you would like to add on that particular 935 logo change topic? Because I notice... Actually, no, continue. I'll let you...
Well, the answer is no.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Right.
Fair enough. I'm not going to add anything there.
Okie dokie.
But...
Because there are lots of changes in those DICE screens to things that we might have seen in the past. So, for example, going through those slides, one of the things that we had seen in the past that then was brought back to the DICE talk was the moon loading screen. And in the bottom left of the moon loading screen, you have a mail order form that is sort of like beginning to be ripped off, and that's going to be sent somewhere, and you've got the price of the grand total, which doesn't match the price of the things that they're actually buying, and all that interesting stuff going on. And there was a slight change in the DICE presentation to that image.
Yeah.
It was slightly sort of zoomed out, I believe. There's slightly more to it, but the actual image itself had been slightly modified.
Wow.
And those sorts of changes, wow indeed, wow indeed, those sorts of changes seem to be somewhat a theme for a lot of the marketing that you guys have done so far.
Sure.
And so I will probably move this into a topic you can speak a little more about.
You make it so hard for me. I want to
which is...
talk to you about all these things.
Yeah, I want to as well, mark my words. So, with things like...
There's an Activision guy off camera who will come in and grab me.
Yep,
As you
take you out the window.
I'll get taken out of here, you never see me again.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So, with things in the past that don't necessarily make sense.
Okay.
So, for example, you might have an obvious thing that people struggle to sort of piece together is you have Maxis and he's in a drone, and then you have Maxis and he's not in a drone seemingly, or well maybe he is. We'll talk about that maybe in a little while. But things like
that's
that.
In part 2 of Gamescom.
Yeah. the real interview. So, with things like that, inconsistencies that the community has had to try and sew together and deal with, all these broken shards of information, do you ever sort of stop and think, how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to go forward with the paradoxes that we've created, and how do we build a story around that sort of thing?
So there's multiple kind of threads we've got going, and they'll have multiple arcs. And I suppose let me make a very poor analogy.
Sure.
Something like, let's take Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Books are massively complicated, lots of things going on, lots of characters. And we'll start off arcs and stories and connections, and then let's say we're going to say, okay, in Black Ops 3 we're going to take these set and explore this. And we leave these things open.
Right.
And we go, okay, but we're going to explore this, finish this, connect this, and then next time we're going to take that and then go with that.
Right.
There are certain elements that you want to kind of leave out there.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's one way of describing it. The second part I'd say is that, especially kind of going into this later series now, going into Black Ops 3, we're really kind of doing a concerted effort now and we are doing it, we're considering it like a campaign. So rather than doing level by level and looking to kind of make the connections,
right,
we're now doing it, you know, all the DLC considered at the same time, connected into, you know, the giant Shadows of Evil. It's all one big conscious thought rather than us moving along piece by piece. And, you know, we'll put stuff down, you know, we'll have arcs understood. Oh. The zombie god's coming for us.
Yep, that's Activision. They're here with a hammer.
You went too far. You mentioned too many things.
Yep.
So we're considering it all in one go because we feel that can bring a greater consistency to the story.
Right.
And it allows us to go, okay, we're closing that down, or we're kind of understanding this and explaining that. Okay, now we've got these bits, and let's take that along and kind of close that as well. So it's allowing us to kind of consider it in large chunks.
Right.
But when we started off, I mean, I mentioned before, the first maps that I did was the original back in World at War. It was, you know, you take a bunch of stuff and go, okay, let's set these questions up, let's set these possibilities up, and then through, you know, following maps you then could pick up one or two of them because you want to kind of do justice by them, and so you can't pick them all up and close them all in one.
Right.
You could, but it was like it didn't seem to make sense, and so as we've been going along, you know, yourselves have you know, grabbed certain ones and made that connection. That's great.
Tried to stitch things together as best we could.
Yeah, and we're kind of shaping that, you know, kind of going forwards into Black Ops.
You're shaping the previous strands.
We're shaping a lot of those previous strands. There's other ones that we're encouraging to stay more open.
Right.
You know, and pushing other ones to the forefront that may have been forgotten or not talked about in a while. But you know, it's also picking certain ones that we think are particularly juicy and kind of getting them ready for further exploration.
So previous things that might have been seeming coincidences or not have been, like things that haven't been explored so much, that might be something to try and pick up on a little bit over the next couple of months in preparation for Black Ops 3, do you think?
I would say,
There's got to be lots of stuff out there.
There's lots of stuff out there.
Such as, for example, just off the top of my head...
Just this one.
You've got the change to the Ascension image that is in the menus. You select Ascension as a map, and it changed for no reason. And it's now looks like it's on a TV, and it's sort of like staticky and stuff. No one really ever went anywhere with that. And so, would you say that that sort of change might be something that we should reinvestigate?
I would say that there's a lot of threads that you guys in the community have kind of explored.
Yep.
Which are ripe for reanalysis. And,
Okay.
I'm hoping that we always try our best that a lot of these things, for the guys who kind of get excited and talk about and kind of get into it.
That's us.
There's going to be payoffs to those those threads. I'm not going to say all those threads right now, but a good majority of them we're going to move forward with.
Okay, so to wrap things up, I have one final sort of progression that I want to go through here.
Yes.
Right. So, you mentioned you're working on simultaneous DLC, right? So you've got like more of an overview, I guess, this time of the things that you want to focus on, and so that's no doubt going to change the way that you build the maps because you've got multiple maps at once, and so you're like, okay, well, this works really well here, and we can take from that, and the story we sort of know it in advance a bit, so that might not have happened with the previous games so much as it is now, and so as far as things like Easter eggs go.
We've got maybe like
2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah. This is sort of the wrapping up thing. So camera seems to have malfunctioned. We're going to try and pick up where we somewhat left off.
There was gold there. There was like
Was
explanations.
absolute gold. Yeah. The Activision team walked out of the room and he just went to town and
we can't ever disclose what was said in those precious.
That'll be lost
moments.
now in the kind of wisps of time.
Just like the Comic-Con panel will just be wisps. Speaking of wisps, hey, you got your buried wisps.
I got
Yep, I remembered. Interesting choice of words. I will note it. That's going in the notebook. So, DLC this time is being considered more as a holistic thing, right? It's a chunk of content rather than individual.
From the Giant through Shadows of Evil into the whole season. Yeah, the whole thing is
so you put the Giant before Shadows of Evil in terms of your sort of look at the.
It was all well. It's not. I'm not saying
was that a conscious.
That wasn't a conscious thing in terms of it's part of the development part of it. But it's how it's considered. So it wasn't kind of like here's a bonus map and here's the on disc offering and then here's DLC. It's been one big kind of consideration.
Sure.
Yeah.
In doing that.
Yes.
As far as Easter eggs go and things along those lines, you have Easter eggs in maps right now. For example, Doriz, you've got your little Easter eggs and you hold X on the brick and it sinks into the floor. That sort of stuff, which we love. We love it. I tell you, that sort of stuff is just the best.
He spent half an hour to an hour talking to me about the brick last night.
That brick, man.
Just the way the brick falls down, it's just...
It's a good
you explain
brick.
It took hours and hours.
Months of animation for that brick.
That was the biggest Easter egg to date in Call of Duty Zombies, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you have a brick in Doriz and it sinks into the floor. That sort of stuff is great, right?
Yeah.
In making the maps together, does that give you more wiggle room to sort of say, we've got an Easter egg on this map and it's the grand Easter egg, the main quest, right? And you've mentioned in the past, play the map 50 times, you're still going to be finding stuff. Is there any thought going into trying to interconnect anything? Because in Black Ops 2, that seemed to be a theme that you really tried to go for.
Yeah.
So,
I think, and again, a little bit too early to say because a lot of the kind of planning at the moment is narrative based.
Yeah, sure. And you're not going to be working on DLC in that way. Yeah.
So it's like location based and narrative based. So I'd never say never.
Okay.
As I've said about other questions they've asked me at Comic-Con.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be more about the kind of the strings of connection rather than a chained Easter egg through maps.
The tendrils, you could say.
You could say tendrils.
The sort of tentacle
a tentacle of connection. I think they would be the things that we considered rather than like I press the button in this one and then in that one I have to press the button.
Okay.
Again, never say never. Because some of them they're fun mechanics. But as you talked to me today, I would say it's more about the story that we're telling.
Right.
Yes.
And it is a story in of itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Around.
And it's I'm seeing this as being the kind of a point in time for the zombie story that we've been telling for the last 8 years. So I'm looking at this as
this is a corner.
This is a point, yeah, because it allows me, you know, with a full DLC season and what we've got with Shadows and the Giant, that's enough content for me to make a real kind of connection with a lot of zombie lore.
Cool. Stuff like that. I'm going to rewatch this video so many times and be like, he said lore. He said the. Like all these little words. Right, so that's probably all we've got time for. Thank you for the interview. It's been fun.
No problem.
And, I mean...
Can I say...
Yeah?
Goodbye, I'm MrRoflWaffles.
You can indeed. We'll do that in just a second. So, yeah. This has been Gamescom coverage, I guess, of basically Black Ops 3-ish stuff. The hand is being raised over the camera right now. Don't do it, no! So, we've got to wrap it up. We are out of time, but there's other Gamescom footage and things that is going to be on my channel, including something that you guys did yesterday for John and myself that was really damn cool, and that is going to be in a coverage sort of recap video, Gamescom vlog part 1. That's the idea. So, thanks for the chat.
No problem.
We should do this more often.
We should.
I'm sure the community would enjoy it.
Yep.
And yeah, you can outro now.
I'll say.
You can riff.
We'll say that we are MrRoflWaffles and goodbye.
Perfect.
It might not be able to talk.
And that was the interview wrapped up. As you can see, Activision were very wary to make sure I knew that I couldn't quite post everything that Jason had said. But regardless, we still did manage to talk about Black Ops 3 Zombies, Black Ops 3's campaign, the old Black Ops games, and even the DLC for Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this interview. Like I said, it was extremely spontaneous and I didn't have any time to plan, so I apologize if I didn't ask the exact questions that you were looking for, but I feel like I did a reasonably good job. Fingers crossed you liked the editing in the video as well, and I apologize for that very short chunk of blackness towards the end. I've been MrRoflWaffles. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, leave a like. If you haven't, let me know why in the comment section down below, and as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. P.S. Make sure to subscribe. Yeah! Okay, just, yeah, seriously, sub. Do it. What are you waiting for? Do it!